Thank you all, one and all, for joining me again today. This is your host, ID Jester, and I've got something very, very special for you today. I'm going to introduce you to a game that my friend has recently turned me on to, and in fact, it's a whole series of games. The actual game that I'm going to introduce to you today is called Advance of the Reich. It's a John Tiller game. It's part of the Squad Battles series of games. Probably a lot of you that have come to my webpage have noticed I've done a lot of different videos on wargaming, whether that's board games that you can play on the computer or whether it's actual computer games. Spend a lot of time delving into different tactical level games, talked about them in multiple different videos, different series. A friend of mine has turned me on to this game, and I wanted to introduce it to you all, maybe give you some insight into the game, some information about it, and I think give you some like a little review based on my playtime with it recently, and really want to introduce this game to you out there because the actual game is was made part of the series by John Tiller, which had a very popular series of games out a while back, campaign series game, and it was very popular. I remember spending many, many late hours of the night delving into the different scenarios and strategies that were involved in that game. So when he introduced me into this series, which has actually been out for a long time, and there's many different games in the series, I was rather interested in getting back into it and learning as much as I could about it. You can actually find out the information by going to www.hpssims.com. On the left-hand side, you'll see there's lots of different kinds of games, but this is actually part of the Squad Battles series of games, and it is called Advance of the Reich. It is a tactical level war game. This one is actually talking about the 1941 and 42 campaigns between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. You can see there's some screenshots here, and I'm going to kind of go over this more in detail in the game, but you can come and check out, read some information about the game. One of the most impressive things that this game includes, you can see here, is a thumbnail image of one of the maps included, and it actually is a massive map. It's 494 hexes by 114 hexes, and it's the actual city of Stalingrad. There's a bunch of different scenarios that are included with this map, and we'll get into the different details of that when I show you part of the game. Like I said, it's part of a series of games. You can see here that let me scroll back up here. It has a Vietnam type games. There is East Front, there's West Front, Pacific, and in fact, if you go to JohnTillerSoftware.com, he has just released a brand new Squad Battles game. It's based on World War One. And you can find out the information by going to the John Tiller Software website. You can see there's lots of screenshots, 67 scenarios, etc. There's some screenshots talking about it. You can actually download a user manual. You can check out what the rules look like ahead of time. There's a wonderful getting started PDF that you can download and kind of goes over the starting scenario kind of step by step so you can learn the ropes. And you can purchase that from his website. So let's get right into it and take a look at it. And it is Advance of the Reich. Okay. Well, I'm just going to start up the normal started scenario there. That was kind of a little loud. Sorry about that. I did get in here earlier and turn off the sound. So we're going to just bring up the started scenario just to show you here. We're going to put the Russians on automatic with fog of war, which means the computer will play the Russians. I will play the Axis units. And we'll say OK. And you can see it's the Axis turn 1. There are, this is just an introductory scenario, so it's kind of short scenario, I don't know, 6 or 7 turns. This is, depending on your default view you've got set up, there's multiple different levels. You can see here that it's more of a hex base, or you can zoom in and zoom in again and get into 3D graphics. You can see that this is a actual Stalingrad scenario. You're in charge of trying to take over objectives. In this uh, game, each scenario is based on the one of the either the German player or the Soviet player taking a certain amount of victory points. You can always go into your information and go into your victory to see what your victory condition is. Only the first side earns points. So in this case, the Axis is going to earn points, and the Soviet, when they do damage to the Axis, and the Axis loses units and men and vehicles and whatever. Instead of them gaining points, the Axis player loses points. So it's basically a balancing act where you don't want to lose too many of your own units, and you want to obviously have the enemy lose as many units as they can, and also try to secure objective hex. You can see in this case, for a major victory, we need 20 victory points at the end of this scenario. If we only have 10 victory points, we have a minor victory. If we have 0, it's a minor defeat. If we have minus 10, it's a major defeat. So by killing enemy units and not losing any units on our side, we would gain points for that. Or we can try to take over objective hexes. Here's an objective hex, here's an objective hex, here's an objective hex. We actually, when I turn this on, there's fog of war. Otherwise, you would see the enemy units. Right now, we don't see any actual enemy units. I'm going to just stay in this view for now because this just happens to be a little scenario. And when I zoom out, I think it'll be a little hard for you to see on this screen. But I'll bring up a couple different scenarios here throughout this introductory to the game, so you could check them out and see what they look like. There's normally 4 different views in programmed into the game. So 2 of the closer views go to 3D graphics. So when you click on a hex, you learn a lot about what's inside the hex. Basically, you're going to have different units, and anything to the right of that unit is going to be a weapon that unit can hold and possess. So in this case, we have one man here who owns a flamethrower, and you notice when I click on that unit, it's going to highlight it and its weapons. Same thing here, we have 10 men, and these men here have different kinds of submachine guns and rifles, light machine guns, satchel charges, smoke grenades, etc., etc. You find out information about your protection you're in, and what the actual hex you are dealing with is like. And basically what we're going to do is you're going to move your units around and try to obviously take over the objective hexes and try to earn as many victory points as you can, so at the end of the scenario you have enough to achieve at least a minor victory, if not a major victory. You can play this by email. You can also play this by hot seat if you have someone that you know. You can take turns playing on the same computer, or you can actually play over the internet. So a lot of different options multiplayer wise. When we go to move, the interface is actually looks like there's a lot to it, but it's really intuitive to what you can do with your units. There's some functionality ones if you want to look at visible hexes. So I've got this unit highlighted with a red hex on it. So it'll show you all the hexes that unit can see. There's also an option here that will show you all your reachable hexes. This means where your unit can move during his movement allowance. Each unit is given a certain amount of movement points. It's also given a status value, how ready it is to perform. When you spend movement points to move or fire, it's taken from your total movement allowance. So you can see that in this case, these units here could fire up to 3 times because they have enough movement points. So if he spends some time moving, and depending on what kind of move he did, he might be only able to move 1 hex and only fire once, or maybe not even fire any, depending on what kind of movement he's doing. You notice units are listed on ground, which means they're basically undercover, uh, laying on the ground, and so when they go to move, they're going to be very slow, methodical. They're not going to get to move very far, and you can see that that's given by just 1 hex that they can move into. You can actually change that mode where then they toggle that, and when you toggle them, they are no longer on ground, so they're getting ready to move out, and that has actually caused some opportunity fire from the computer here. And now that these enemy units have shot, they are now visible, and we know where they're at. But you can see that now that we are no longer on the ground, basically crawling uh, from uh, from defensive terrain to defensive cover, we're more just running from spot to spot. You can see that we're going to be able to move a few more hexes here. Or we could spend time shooting. You want to make sure that your units obviously are, once you're finished moving, it takes movement points for them to go from hidden on ground to standing up ready to move. So you want to make sure that your units are not in that mode at the end of their turn because they're not undercover and they take penalties, etc., etc. So basically, it's just a tactical war game of moving your units around, deciding who to attack, where to attack. In this case here, we have a couple different units here. We have a leader here. You can see that this leader here has it's rated an A. A is the best. There's A, B, C, D, E, and F. C is normal or just average, so anything less than that, A or B, are better. And that can come into play where your leaders are going to help rally your units. Units can become pinned, demoralized, disrupted. Obviously, they can get killed. In this case, what we're going to do is we're just going to unselect everybody. We're just going to select this smoke grenade, and we can just take that and throw it into the hex adjacent to us here. So we got some smoke cover, and then we can spend some time moving. Oops, got to select the units now. Let's select them and stand them up, and we'll go ahead and move them into that hex there. And you notice their movement points have gone down. They started with 24 movement points. They're down to 13 movement points. So they still have enough movement points left where they can actually fire one more time. So they have enough to fire. So we're going to fire at these units that we see that are adjacent to us here. But of course, when they shoot, the computer is going to decide if any of the enemy units decide to opportunity fire and shoot back at them. And you can see that quite a few units took their opportunity to shoot at us, and you can see that the results are still 0 there, so nobody in our team had been killed, but you can see down here that our unit become disrupted. Each unit that's disrupted can automatically try to recover itself at the beginning of each turn. Based on its morale state. And in this case, we had a morale of A and went down from A to a morale of B. You can tell that it's lower because it's now in yellow. You notice our movement points, now that we shot and through the smoke and moved, are down to 0. So there's nothing else we could do for these units. So we're just basically going to spend time moving the different units around. In this case, we have a what do we have here? A Stug tank. We've got some different kinds of infantries. If I just click on them around, you can see here we just have a 10-man squad here with different weapons again, a satchel charge. You can actually right-click on these units here, and you get a whole new set of information: the reliability of the weapon, the range of the weapon, the lethality of the weapon, how lethal it is. That means what higher lethality is a better chance of doing damage to the enemy, and penetration is basically the ability to penetrate the enemy's cover. Each hex is given a rating. If we click on this unit here, we can see that it has a protected value of 48 because it's a masonry or stone type building. I think this is, if we looked at this scenario ahead of time, I think it talked about the tractor works. I think this is the tractor works representation of the building there, and your job is to obviously take over that building. So that's an introductory scenario. It's just a short little scenario, but if we go back and let's open up a new one, you can see there are quite a list of different scenarios here using many of the different maps. I'm not sure exactly how many different maps there are built into this game. There are quite a few, but here we've got 4 scenarios here in Kharkov. We'll just load up one of those really quick. Again, we'll just put the Russians on automatic, and hopefully the Axis player goes first. There are additional rules you can choose, which are explained in the rule book. Some of these I think are actually good rules to use. Which one is it? Optional fire results. I forget. There's vehicle fire over. I know that's a good one. Basically, your units can't fire through another allied unit. So with this in place, if you had a vehicle, you could fire over infantry units. Otherwise, if an infantry unit was in front of a tank, the tank wouldn't shoot through that hex because he wouldn't want to damage his own units. But so there's some different optional rules you can use. Let's bring up this scenario and take a look at what we got here. Oh no, we got the Russians shooting first. And you can see the computer's quick. It does its thing. There's no delay. This is a 15 turn scenario here, more in depth. Let's zoom out a little bit. You can see the big difference here. We're still in 3D mode here. Even though we zoomed out, you can see the map much bigger. In fact, I'm still getting used to the different buttons up here at the top, but there we are. There's a little jump map dialog box where you can actually bring it up and click on, if it's a big map, to different locations. Again, we can zoom out some more and we get more of our regular board type counters here. But again, when we click on a hex, it gives you all the information. Here we see you have 2 men firing a mortar. We have a 10-man squad. To select units in a hex, all we have to do is double click the hex. It'll select all the different units in it. There are lots of different units. Here we have a MG34 on a tripod there. Some of these weapons take a certain amount of crew to crew them. In this case, if I right click, you can see that it says crew of 3. So if we don't have enough if we don't have enough people, some of these people die, then we wouldn't have enough crew to man this weapon. So you have to worry about that. And you can see some of the enemy units that have started moving across the map. I'm not sure if I put this one on Fog of War or not, but I just wanted to give you kind of a look at what the couple of the different maps look like. So there's a Kharkov map. I think in this scenario you can see we have some victory point markers, one here, one here, one here. So obviously the Soviets are trying to take over those objectives, and of course the Germans are trying to protect these objectives. Let's bring up another scenario here just to take a look at them. Nope. I definitely like, let's look at the railway station. That's going to be a Stalingrad map. Russians, I won't do the fog war so you can see what the enemy units look like. Oh good, it's our turn first, so we don't have to worry about that. There's no, unfortunately, there's no volume control built into the game, so I can't uh, adjust the volume in the game separately than my microphone. So if I turn the volume down in the game, then you wouldn't be able to hear me talking. So I just decided to turn off. If you don't, there's actually background sounds that are on by default, but I turn that off so you can make it easier for you to hear my introductory to the game as well. So here we go. There's a view there. Again, we can zoom out way out on the map so you can see more of a tactical overview. You can zoom in to get 3D view, and you can even zoom in another level to get an additional. All the scenarios that I've come across are built around basically these objective points. One side trying to take objectives here, and the other side trying to hold on to their objectives and cause damage to the enemy. Um, there is lots of information. If we go into the user manual here, you can see here's basically the user manual. It is rather well done. You can see that there's lots of big pictures. They talk about what the different things are. So you're not really, if you read the manual, start playing some of the scenarios, you'll understand pretty much how things operate in the game. There's even lots of information built in where you got a general help file. This is going to give you help on leader menus, the different dialogue boxes that are built into the game. If you're not sure of anything, you can come into here and it'll give you detailed information about it. So I've only had the game just a little while, and I have found it very intuitive. And if I wasn't sure of something, I was able to find the information quickly and easily. There is data that you can actually get into that's built into each of the different scenario games, because they're obviously different time periods. There's a Vietnam game, there's modern times, World War I, World War II. So each of these parameter data dialog boxes gives you detailed information about the different terrains. Infantry is going to be awarded 24 movement points in this series of, in this game. Maybe in a different game they might be given 30 movement points, or tanks might have a lot more movement points. Might cost certain movement points to enter into different types of terrain. So this is another great resource to go in, and you can find out all the information about different movement costs and terrain bonuses and penalties, etc., etc. There is a weapon data dialogue, which you can get into and learn about how all the different kinds of weapons, what the lethality of them are, the penetration value, the range of them, the minimum range, etc., etc. You can see I'm just scrolling down here. There's just lots and lots and lots and pages and pages and pages of information. So if you wanted to spend lots of time getting into the minute details of this game, you certainly have lots of options to do that. Campaign notes. Here's a designer talks about new features in this game of the series as opposed to different other games of the series. The Stalingrad map. We're talking specifically about maybe what the map looks like compared to other maps. Here we have, because this is 1941-42, we have anti-tank abilities might not be as good as they were later in the war. Mortar values here. Germans were outclassed with the mortars in 1941 and 42. Russians were using up to 120 millimeters. The Germans, I believe, only had up to 50 millimeters, if I remember something like that. Here it is, 50 millimeters. So the Germans were outclassed by the mortars, and so basically he's just giving you information about that, that you can read about and learn. Uh, there is a getting started PDF that comes with each of the different games in the series. It kind of goes over the introductory scenario. Here we can see our little scenario I had started at the beginning of this, talking to you about what everything on the screen means, and so it's very easy just to follow along and start getting into the game and understanding how to do things. Here the guy's showing you how to throw smoke to cover your advancement, how to throw your satchel charges, how to assault hexes. So just following along helps you get in the game. And of course, you use your mana we talked about. So lots of different files that you'll have access to that will be able to learn the game, understand how to play it, get into playing it right away. There's a lot of minute details going on the inside, which you don't have to worry about. But like I said, if you wanted to find out about this details, so you understand how things are happening and why things are happening and everything, you can get into the weapon data and figure out what the lethality of a certain weapon is at different ranges, because based on the range, its lethality might be a little bit different than it normally is at a different range. What else did I want to show you? I think that's about it. So that's kind of the how to play the game, and kind of an overview of it. You're going to just be moving units around, trying to capture objective points or protect objective points. If you can't get objective points, then you need to kill more enemy units. So instead of getting this 10-point marker, if I was able to kill 10 guys, that's worth 10 points. So I would have to kill 10 more guys as opposed to trying to get this victory point marker. And you're going to do that, and it has been a lot of fun playing this game. It brings me back to his campaign series games, where the more you start playing them and the more you start earning in the game, the more you want to start playing bigger and better scenarios and trying different things and trying different tactics and just learning to play with lots of different toys and lots of different units in the game. Again, here's I know there was a scenario I loaded up just before I started recording, and it had, what was the name of that scenario? Was it Bug River? Trying to remember the name of that scenario, because it had a whole bunch of different. Well, let's take a shot and see if that was it. Sure. Nope, that wasn't it. Oh well. But it had a whole bunch of different vehicles. It had artillery pieces and trucks, and it had hostile waffle woofers or whatever that whatever the name of that thing is. It was the German player, the one that pew pew pew, like little missiles that shoots out. The hostile Waffle. Yeah, you had a couple of those things, and so it was like awesome to just sit there and watch everything going on. It was just, if you are into World War II tactical war games, if you're into trying to understand the complex nature of tactical war games at all, this is a wonderful series to get into. And like I showed you earlier, if you're not into World War II, there is Vietnam. There's a Vietnam version of this. There is actually on the John Tiller software site, there is Modern Warfare 1. So if you like the modern day stuff, you can get into doing that. It's basically all the same series of games. So once you learn how to play the one, it's just a matter of understanding the different nuances between the different versions of the game. There's a modern one. There is a new World War One one. So if you're into World War One action, there's all sorts of different Korean War. And there is, I think, 6 or 8 of them based on the World War II. Here's the Pacific War one, and there is Afghan uh, Red Victory, which is basically another East Front game, but I think it's 43, 44, and 45. It's after Stalingrad game, so more advanced units, more dangerous and deadly units. Uh, and there you go. So that is going to be my introductory to the whole. Even though this is just one game in the series, it's more of an introductory to the whole series in general, the Squad Battles series. Oops, nope, I don't want that. I want to try and, oh, no, I want to try and grab that. Maybe it was this one. Let's try that. Oh, maybe this is it. Definitely some artillery coming in. It's probably a little loud, but hopefully it's not too loud to blowing out your eardrums. Um, like I said, there's not much I can do about that. Here we have, what is this, a KV-1 Russian tank here. We have some Panzer 3Es here. We have some, what else do we have? Some squads. We have a 50 millimeter mortar. We have a 37 millimeter AT gun. We have Pack 35. Oh, here we got an IG-18 infantry assault gun. Let's see, do we have the, where are they? Oh, I think they're actually in the back. Yeah, here they are, back here. Here they are, the Neffelwerfers, 150 millimeter Neffelwerfers. This is actually interesting. I didn't should have looked more into this, but the reason they start back here is because they have a really long range, 120 hexes, but they have a minimum of 12 hexes. So you don't want to move these guys too close to the front because you can't shoot less than 12 hexes. So all sorts of fun little toys to play with. So hopefully this is going to give you a good introductory to the Squad Battles series of games. John Tiller, wonderful job. Absolutely am enjoying this game immensely. All sorts of different scenarios, and even though you're using a lot of the same kind of units, a lot of them over and over again, a lot of infantry, blah blah blah, but each scenario is just been so different in the way it's designed, things you can run into. Here's the grain elevator scenario. I'm not sure if I loaded that one up or not, but here we have one of the most famous battles of one of the most famous incident battles of Stalingrad here, the grain elevator, and you can see that it looks like it's just one objective in this 30 points if you can secure it. Oh no, there's another one up there, 20, and there's another one down there, 20. So you can see your units, in 2D mode if you like that. I've actually got on a few things that maybe I didn't talk about earlier. You can turn on company markings so you can see what units are related to what other units are. And I also have on, no, that wasn't it. I think maybe that was all I turned on earlier. But there's lots of different options so you can do different things. You can show your rival units, zooming in and out. You can, here's your buttons to load or unload and drop things, or load and pick up things. Your vehicles have facing, so you need to turn them clockwise or counterclockwise because based on their way they're getting attacked, their armor ratings are going to be different on the side, the front, and the back. Let's see here. Saving, you can save your scenarios in progress. You can come back and play them later, especially if they're longer scenarios. There are short scenarios like 5 to 10 turns long, and then there's longer ones, I think up to like 85 to 90 turns, possibly longer in some of the other games. You can turn on visible hexes, etc., etc. The jump map we looked at. All sorts of fun little things that you can delve into and explore within this game. And like I said, once you learn the game, this squad battles games, you can then move on to buy another one and get right into playing that one because it's all based on the same rule book, the same series. There'll be a little just uh, there'll just be like a little PDF file that'll explain the nuances of this specific series game. That World War One is going to be slightly different because they have poisonous gas in it, et cetera, which you're not going to have in World War Two. So there's different little parts of that are going to be just different between each kind of game. Obviously, like the Pacific games, you're not going to run into too much bamboo or jungle rules in this kind of game as opposed to like the Pacific game. So you're going to have some little differences here or there that you got to learn. But overall, you're going to understand the game. You're going to understand the system. You're going to understand how to move and fight and assault and do all the fun things that you get to do with the tactical level World War II games or World War One games. And all I have to say is this has been a lot of fun. I can highly, highly recommend this. If you come to my website for other games that I have recommended, you notice that I don't recommend everything that's on my website. I give an honest opinion, and I give what I like and don't like about these games. I actually can say that I have not come across much of anything that I don't like. Um, Possibly the only thing that I would recommend, and I don't even know if it's capable, but I love the 3D graphics um, of the units here. I just wish that I could keep the 3D graphics when I zoom out on this because I do like these maps, tend to like these maps better than I like the zoomed in maps. But I do like the 3D units, so I wish I could keep the 3D units when I zoom all the way out, but I'm sure it's probably no way to do it and make it look as good as it does. So, I mean, that's just one little uh, thing that I would like to see. The other thing is, I wish there was a box that kind of, when you go to attack somebody, or if I was gonna say there was an enemy here and I was going to attack it, if I was to like hover over it, maybe if it gave me like some possible odds that I could expect, just you know chance of doing damage 28%. You know, between 1 and 5 people going to get, or between 0 and 5 people might get killed. Just rough averages, because at this point, unless you really delve into the understanding the complex combat system, you're kind of just trying to figure it out on your own. And if there was some kind of a help, that would be maybe kind of helpful. But you know, that's just a little nitpick. Besides that, you can tell definitely love the 3D graphics. The 3D graphics do look really good on the 3D maps, but sometimes they can get a little cluttered, especially when you're looking at the Stalingrad scenarios when it's just building after building, and they it's kind of hard to see which hex they're in. Besides that, I really don't have any other negative comments to say about this game. I definitely rate it a 9.4. 9.4 is what I'm going to give this game. 9.4. Definitely highly recommended to you. So this is ID Jester. If you have any thoughts, comments, or questions, please leave them in the comments, or leave them in the post them, and I will reply back to them. If you do enjoy this, give me a big thumbs up. And if I get enough thumbs up, I'll actually record some gameplay of this video. I actually was trying to get on the YouTube site and see if I could find some video on these different games in this series, and I couldn't find anything that was worth a crap out there. So I thought, well, I could do that if people are interested in watching these games and watching how they play out and watching what they do. So if you would like to see something like that, give me a thumbs up. Say, yes, I want to see that, and I will definitely record some scenarios so we can check out what this game is like in action. Well, until the next time we get together, thank you for joining me for my special episode on Advance of the Reich, a John Tiller game. Be sure to check out hpssims.com and um, John Tiller software.com for all your information about the Squad Battles system of games, and you can even see some of the other games. There's a Panzer uh, game series of games, Panzer campaigns, which are very awesome as well if you're into more as opposed to a tactical level game. If you're looking more for a strategic level game, you can see a lot of the same kinds of detail and graphics in those games as well as the squad battles games. So if you can't find or not interested in tactical level games, if you're more into strategic level games, there is a Napoleonic Battles game series, campaign 1814. I'm very interested in getting this game and taking a look at this one as well. This might be my next purchase, as a matter of fact. Reason right here, there are over 400 scenarios included in this game. 400 scenarios. Okay, for 400 scenarios, I could play a scenario a day and not get done until the end of January 2014. If I was to play one scenario a day, I could play until the end of January 2014. So that's a long ways away, as you can tell. Um, so yeah, lots of different games in the different series, strategic level, tactical level, squad level, campaign games, all sorts of just wonderfulness that I would love to get into. And thank you so much for joining me today. Until the next time we get together, this is ID Jester signing off.